Marcos Jr. approves the proposed Philippine Export Development Plan to transform the country into a global export player. A Senate leader expects the controversial Maharlika Investment Fund bill to be submitted to the President within the week. A digital advocacy group seeks suspension against Grab Philippines and its motorcycle taxi firm Move It over various alleged violations. And Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky praises his troops after advances in several sections of the front line with Russia. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is June 6, 2023. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media channels. I am Marvi Delfin. First in the news. A Senate leader expects the controversial Maharlika Investment Fund, or MIF bill, to be submitted to the President within the week. This as the Senate has yet to complete its so-called finishing touches on the bill. Harleen Delgado will tell us why.
Senate Majority Leader and Senate Officer in Charge Joel Villanueva sees no reason for the transmittal of the Maharlika Investment Fund or MIF bill to the palace to be delayed. Currently, there's no enrolled bill yet as the Senate is still cleaning up the measure, almost a week after it was approved and adopted by the lower chamber. The third copy of the bill contains duplicating provision on the prescription period, which Senator Chis Escudero earlier called as a result of haste. Section 50 of the bill's third reading copy states that prescription of crimes is set to 10 years, while Section 51 states the prescription of offense is set to 20 years. Villanueva says the two provisions will be consolidated in its final version.
10-year prescription ay yun po yung kineri. At doon sa proposal ni Senator Ontiveros, hindi po tinanggap ito ng sponsor. I don't want to glorify yung mga sinasabing minadali or nagkamali. You know, we're all human beings, and you know, during the time it's already 3 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, and nangyayari yung mga typo errors.
Villanueva also clarifies that the Government Service Insurance System, or GSIS, and the Social Security System, or SSS, can still enter into a joint venture with the Maharlika Investment Corporation, or MIC, and invest in projects, but not in the MIF itself. This comes after Finance Secretary Benjamin Jokno was quoted saying that state-run pension institutions can still subscribe to quote-unquote Maharlika projects. Villanueva adds the MIC can only invest in projects that are approved by the National Economic and Development Authority.
Kunyari, itong microphone na ito yung project. Ito yung power plant, di ba? For example, ito yung power plant. Ito si MIC. Pumasok si MIC dito sa power plant. Nag-joint venture sila para pumasok dito. Ito, okay yun, no? Legit yun. Legit. Ang hindi tama ay itong si GSIS pumunta kay Maharlika para pumasok sa isang project.
That's why the Senate leader emphasizes the importance of scrutinizing the crafting of the government's implementing rules and regulations, or IRR, of the measure.
Ngayon pa nga lang, nagkakaroon ng ilang misconception or miscommunication. At the end of the day, klaro yung ipinasa natin dito sa Senado, and I can speak for our institution na protektado ang ating mga kababayan. Hindi ho sila inelect ng taong bayan para magdebate at amyendahan o palitan o baguhin, dagdagan o bawasan ang batas na ito.
Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Tropical depression Chedeng continues to gain strength as it moves almost stationary after forming into a cyclone earlier today. As of 4 p.m., Chedeng is located 1,150 kilometers east of southern Luzon. It is packing maximum sustained winds of 55 kilometers an hour and gustiness of up to 70 kilometers per hour. At the moment, it has no direct effect in the country. Based on the forecast track from PAG-ASA, the cyclone is less likely to make landfall in the Philippine landmass. However, it is expected to intensify the southwest monsoon. Some individuals, including public officials, are now facing formal complaints before the Department of Justice over the oil spill incident in Oriental Mindoro. Dante Emento tells us why.
The National Bureau of Investigation or NBI filed multiple complaints at the Department of Justice or DOJ this afternoon. This was over the sunken empty Princess Empress that caused an oil spill in Oriental Mindoro. 35 private and public individuals are facing the complaints, including officials of the Philippine Coast Guard or PCG, Maritime Industry Authority or MARINA, 6 crew members of the oil tanker, 7 directors and incorporators of RDC Railed Marine Services Inc., the owner of Empty Princess Empress.
The officials from MARINA and RDC Railed Marine Services Inc. conspired for the purpose of illegally registering the empty Princess Empress with false documents. Specific persons liable are from the MARINA. One is the Director of Region 5 and Head of Marina Shipyard in Region 5.
The complaints are multiple falsification and multiple use of falsified documents by private individuals, multiple falsification of public or official documents, and perjury. Department of Justice or DOJ Secretary Crispin Rimulya stressed the issue of good faith and negligence is the primordial issue in this case.
Hindi sila naging really compliant with all their responsibilities as people who would want to get a certificate of necessity and public convenience. Kasi ano yan common carrier sila in so many ways, di ba?
Meanwhile, the DOJ said that this is just the start of filing of complaints over the incident. Possible liability for environmental damages may also be filed soon. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Sugar Regulatory Administration, or SRA, is now finalizing the importation of up to 150,000 metric tons of sugar. According to Administrator Pablo Ascona, local production of refined sugar has decreased by around 100,000 metric tons. The supply by the end of August is also short by around 15,000 metric tons. The official noted that milling operations have almost ended and will start again in September. Last year, milling operations started earlier in August, but the weather affected local production.
Pag malakas yung ulan, hindi maka-harvest yung farmers. Walang sugarcane na dumarating sa mill. Kasi yung fuel na ginagamit nila is bagas. Bagas comes from sugarcane. So, yun din. So, if you don't have sugarcane, you don't have bagas.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. approved the proposed Philippine Export Development Plan for 2023 to 2028, aimed at capitalizing on export growth opportunities amid the market trends and developing local industries. Nel Maribuhok reports.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has approved the proposed Philippine Export Development Plan 2023 to 2028, aimed at making the Philippines a major player in the global export market. To make the Philippines at par with other countries in terms of the export sector, Department of Trade and Industry Secretary Alfredo Pascual said the government has to address the weakest point in this area by developing the country's manpower and by improving the quantity and quality of exportable products.
We are laggards because we have firms that are not able to come up with the quantity and quality of exportable products. Just to cite an example, there's a big market for durian in China, but we cannot cope with the required quantity.
According to Malacanang, the President is expected to sign a memorandum circular defining and instructing the various agencies of their respective roles in the said export plan. Secretary Pascual, on the other hand, stressed that before the Philippines can export, it needs to produce. He said the first challenge is helping industries produce products that can compete in the market.
We are identifying for different sectors with export potential, what their constraints are, and we will try to address it at the industry level. But also, there are certain firms that might require greater support, and we will do it. We will do our intervention at the firm level, including what we're doing now for MSMEs, providing consulting support, technical assistance, etc.
In this plan, the Trade Secretary said 4 industries would be prioritized, including industrial machinery and transport cluster, media and telecommunications, the health and life sciences cluster, and the modern basic needs of a resilient economy. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Philippine Coast Guard insists that the trilateral exercise between the Philippine Coast Guard and their counterparts from the United States and Japan has nothing to do with the maritime dispute in the West Philippine Sea. But the message it sends to the region is a sign of strong relations among the coast guards of the 3 countries. On the 6th day of the trilateral exercise held in the West Philippine Sea, which is at a distance of 15.3 nautical miles from Napo Point in Maniveles, Bataan. 4 ships participated, including BRP Melchora Aquino, BRP Gabriela Silang, USC GC Stratton, and Japan CG Akitsushima. Tomorrow will mark the end of the 7-day training between the 3 countries.
This is purely on the Coast Guard side. Again, this is a training exercise. We're not going to go expound about the other border issues. This is for the training purposes and interoperability, and we hope that this will increase further.
Former NBC Universal executive Linda Yaccarino has officially started her new job as Chief Executive Officer of Twitter, just over 6 months after Elon Musk's controversial takeover of the platform. Annie Mancilla would tell us why, live. Annie, good evening.
Good evening, Kathy. Linda Yaccarino, the former head of advertising at NBC Universal, took over her new role earlier than expected as Mr. Musk intends to refocus his attention on his other businesses, namely Tesla and SpaceX. Twitter also welcomed Joe Benarock, the former senior vice president of communications, advertising, and partnerships at NBC Universal, who will be focusing on business operations alongside Ms. Yaccarino. Since Mr. Musk's takeover approximately 6 months ago, the social media platform's advertisement revenues have suffered. He cut 75% of its employees and changed the verification process for authentic accounts. Ms. Yaccarino is expected to restore Twitter's ad sales by leveraging her extensive experience from her previous roles. The announcement follows the resignation of Ella Irwin, Twitter's second head of trust and safety under Mr. Musk. The reason for her resignation is unclear, but it came after Mr. Musk publicly complained about a content moderation decision. Back to you, Kathy.
Thank you, Annie Mancilla, live from Singapore. We'll share more global stories with you later, but for now, back to you, Marvy.
Thank you, Kathy. For those watching our live streaming on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook. Dr. Teodoro Ted Herbosa officially assumed his position as the new Secretary of the Department of Health today, June 6. Health experts suggest that the department should prioritize upgrading health facilities. Gladys Tawabi will tell us why.
Health experts have confidence in Dr. Teodoro Ted Herbosa's ability and experience in leading the Department of Health. They suggest prioritizing the upgrading of health facilities in the country.
Hopefully, he can build up on the programs na nagawa na ng previous administration, including that of the USEC OIC Vergere, na dapat matuloy-tuloy yun at to improve on it and to implement it, especially the Universal Healthcare Law.
Meanwhile, the donated bivalent vaccine from the Lithuanian government is not enough to meet the priority population of the Department of Health or DOH. According to infectious disease expert and president of the Philippine College of Physicians, Dr. Ronjan Solante, there are already 2 to 3 million healthcare workers and senior citizens in the country. He also emphasized the need to include people with comorbidities and those who are immunocompromised.
So targeted ang recommendation natin. Ibig sabihin, kung saan nangangailangan ng protection because we want to prevent this population to get the severe infection, which are the people that we see in the hospitals.
Dr. Solante believes that the country has surpassed the Arcturus wave as COVID-19 cases, positivity rates and hospitalizations decrease. However, he stresses that the public should not be complacent.
So I think we've passed that critical stage of the Arcturus, but we still need to be watchful, no? Hindi tayo maging kampante because there are other 7 variants under monitoring ng WHO na we don't know yet kung darating dito sa atin or nandito na, but we have to monitor sa mga kaso.
Gladys Tawabi, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The inflation rate in the country further slowed to 6.1% for the month of May, according to the Philippine Statistics Authority. The agency stated that transport served as the main contributor to the slowdown of inflation. Bernadette Tinoy will tell us why.
The Philippine Statistics Authority or PSA reports on Tuesday, June 6, that the inflation rate for the month of May slowed to 6.1%, marking the 4th consecutive month of deceleration in the country. According to PSA Undersecretary and National Statistician Dennis Mapa, the average inflation from January to May recorded at 7.5%. He added that headline inflation both within and outside of the National Capital Region slowed for the month of May.
Pagdating naman sa National Capital Region, ang headline inflation nitong Mayo 2023 ay bumagal sa antas na 6.5%. Sa mga lugar sa labas ng National Capital Region, ang inflation nitong Mayo 2023 ay bumagal sa antas na 6%.
PSA also reports that transport inflation served as the main contribution to the slowdown of goods and services in the country. Tricycle driver Ben Lim said they noticed the rollback of gasoline and diesel prices last month but anticipate price hikes in the coming weeks.
Maganda sana kung tuloy-tuloy. Makakaramdam kami ng konting ginawa. Pag tumaas yung gasolina, tumaas din ang bilhin. Pag bumaba ang gasolina, bumababa rin yung binili. Kasi transport yung nagdadala sa atin dito eh.
Meanwhile, the Cordillera Administrative Region or CAR recorded the lowest inflation rate at 3.9%, while Mimaropa recorded the highest at 7.2% inflation.
May mga buwan in the past na Mimaropa nag-exhibit ng pagtaas ng inflation. Ang isa kasing katangian ng Mimaropa sa region, island provinces siya karamihan, di ba? So medyo challenge yung mga delivery of goods.
PSA expects further deceleration in the inflation rate but admits that goods and services may change in the coming months. Bernadette Tinoy, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said the continuing decline of the country's inflation rate is an encouraging news for the Philippine economy. In a video message, the president said this piece of news is very welcome as it is coupled with the improving employment rate in the country. He said that the slower inflation showed that his administration was on the right track in lowering the prices of goods.
And so it would seem that we have started off in the right direction, on the right foot. Tama naman yata ang ating ginawang mga pulisiya para pabuhayin ulit at gawing masigla ulit ang ating ekonomiya. Sa ngayon, yung growth rate natin ay maganda pa rin at siguro isa na sa pinakamaganda sa buong mundo ang ating growth rate. So lumalaki at sumisigla ang ating ekonomiya.
A digital advocacy group has sought suspension against Grab Philippines and its motorcycle taxi firm Move It over various alleged violations. Janice and Gente will tell us why.
Over the years, Grab has received several fines, including a 9 million pesos penalty last month for its failure to fully refund its customers more than 3 years since the reimbursement was ordered by the regulator. In 2017, Grab was fined 63.7 million pesos by the Philippine Competition Commission following its acquisition of the ride-hailing firm Uber. But despite the fines imposed by the government, a network of digital advocates says that Grab seems to be unfazed by the said penalties and allegedly continues to violate the government's regulations. Ronald Gustillo, Digital Pinoy's national campaigner, said that stiffer penalties such as suspension should be imposed against Grab for the supposed hike in its minimum fare despite the absence of authorization by the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board or LTFRB.
Napakarami na po ng penalty na ipinataw sa Grab. At pero ang napapansin natin sa kabila ng napakaraming penalties na ito, hindi ho sila tumigil. Dapat bigyan na ng mas mabigat na parusa yung Grab at saka yung Move It. Yung suspension, yung duration, no? Tingin natin 60 days is enough. Pero leave it to the government agencies na mag-decide kung gaano katagal, no?
He added that Grab-owned motorcycle taxi firm Move It should also be held accountable for violating the mandatory skills assessment and training. They also questioned Move It's plan to increase its number of riders in Metro Manila despite the lack of allocation from the technical working group.
Itong sa Cebu, wala silang allocation at all. Zero yung allocation nila dyan. Yung Angkas at saka Joyride, I think meron silang tig 4,000 pero sa Cebu wala. Kapag ka nag-ooperate ka na wala kang allocation, rate ng walang prangkisa.
In a statement, Move It denied the claims of violation, stating that it operates in strict accordance with the government regulations. Move It also added that it is actively working with the Motorcycle Taxi Technical Working Group to ensure that all their rider partner undergo the mandatory training and assessment. It also upgraded its app to enhance safety measures for riders and passengers. Meanwhile, the Makabayan Black said it plans to file a bill to regulate the TNVS sector.
Kasama sa mga dapat i-regulate ay paano ba talaga nabibigyan ng franchise ang sino mang kumpanya na gustong mag-offer ng ganitong serbisyo. Pangalawa, regulation din talaga sa presyo at sa commission system ng mga vehicle service na ito. At paano natin aayusin yung employer-employee relationship. Kasi sa ngayon, ang tawag lang doon sa mga drivers, sila daw ay mga partners. No?
Janice and Gente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, or MMDA, said that the average daily traffic volume on EDSA has already surpassed the recorded peak during the pre-pandemic period. From 405,000 daily traffic volume, it has now increased to 425,000 vehicles passing through EDSA on a daily basis. These numbers were based on the recently conducted volume count held by the MMDA on May 22 rather. However, MMDA Acting Chairman Don Artes remarked that the average travel speed on EDSA has become faster than the pre-pandemic level.
Ang average speed po ng vehicles ay mas mabilis, nasa 21 kilometers per hour. Ang northbound at ang southbound po ay nasa 24 kilometers per hour. Ito po ay halos doble.
Combat activities by Ukraine have increased, signaling the Kyiv's long-anticipated counter-offensive is underway, according to war analysts. Meanwhile, Soviet-era dam in the Russian-controlled part of southern Ukraine has blown up, necessitating the evacuation of people. In his nightly video address on Monday, June 5, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky praised the troops after their advances in several sections of the front line with Russia, which appeared to be the preliminary stages of Ukraine's long-anticipated mass counter-offensive. Zelensky highlighted Russia's failed reactions to every operation undertaken by Ukrainian forces so far and hailed two Ukrainian units in particular for skillfully defending and moving their positions forward.
Перше, я вдячний кожному нашому воїну, усім нашим захисникам, нашим захисницям, які дали за цей день саме ті новини, які ми очікуємо. Бахмутський напрямок. Молодці воїни. Ми бачимо, як істерична Росія сприймає будь-який наш крок там, всі наші зайняті позиції. Ворог знає, що Україна переможе. Вони це бачать. Вони це відчувають завдяки вашим ударам, воїни. І, зокрема, на Донеччині. Дякую за це.
According to Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba, Ukraine currently has enough weapons to begin its counter-offensive, and operation will allow Ukraine to end active hostilities, which could potentially pave the way for the country to join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization or NATO. Ukraine's national police urged people to evacuate after the Novokokova Dam in the Russian-controlled part of southern Ukraine was destroyed, resulting in floodwater across the region. According to Alexander Prokudin, the governor of Kherson region, approximately 16,000 people were in the critical zone. This situation could potentially affect the Ukrainian plans for amphibious assault across the river. Additionally, the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant may also lose access to water for cooling, and the water supply to Crimea could also be severely affected. In other news, China's Defense Minister General Li Shangfu admitted that the war between China and United States would be an unbearable disaster for the world if the conflict continued to escalate. In his first international address at the recent Security Summit in Singapore, General Li expressed that China is open to dialogues and that two countries should seek common ground despite these many differences. However, the U.S. rebuked China for refusing to hold direct military talks, citing the 2018 incident when China purchased weapons from Russia, resulting in sanctions that prohibited General Li from traveling to the U.S. Two Chinese military officers who also attended the security summit revealed that the sanction against the general hindered dialogue between the two superpowers. Jobo, a retired officer of the People Liberations Army, stated that talks with the U.S. are possible, but Washington needs to lift the sanctions first. Meanwhile, Washington State Department Deputy Spokesperson Vedant Patel stated that the U.S. hopes to have a predictable relationship with China and avoid any new Cold War. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I am Kathy Navarro, live from Vietnam. Good evening.
Because of the increasing number of COVID-19 cases in Tuguegarao City, Mayor Myla Tinque has issued a mandatory wearing of face masks for indoors or public enclosed areas. The mandatory face mask policy for indoors and public enclosed areas in Tuguegarao City will start on June 7 to 21, aiming to curb the rising cases of COVID-19. Mayor Myla Tinque announced this on Monday, June 5. According to City Mayor Myla Tinque, the local health board has passed a resolution mandating the use of face masks and other necessary protocols in indoors and public enclosed areas, especially in malls, groceries, cinemas, schools, and government offices. This measure is in response to the rising number of COVID-19 infections in the city and the alarming death rate, particularly among those who are unvaccinated or have incomplete vaccination.
Sa amin parang nag-50-60 lang kami daily. Konti pa yun kung tutuusin, hindi ba? Sa number ng population. But the local health board, nag-worry si city health officer namin kasi like for me, we had 10 deaths. Most of those were unvaccinated.
Tinque also mentioned that walk-in vaccinations against COVID-19 are still ongoing at the city's health office from Mondays to Fridays from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. According to the City Health Office, Tuguegarao City has experienced an uptick in COVID-19 cases starting April and May 2023. Yesterday, June 5, the city logged 50 active cases with 4 new infections, 0 deaths, and 13 new recoveries. The most noticeable increases were observed during the second week of May, where daily tallies of infections were over 30 and reaching 40. It has only been since the end of May until the present time that the city has recorded daily active cases of over 50. Our kasangbahay, as the world faces these trying times amid the various challenges and uncertainties, we are inviting everyone to join the global prayer for humanity from Monday to Friday 9:30 p.m. Philippine time through the social media accounts of the Members Church of God International. And before we close, we will leave you with the word giving glory to God. From the book of Proverbs, chapter 13, verse 12, it says, "Hope deferred maketh the heart sick, but when the desire cometh, it is a tree of life." And those are the reasons behind the news June 6, 2023. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am Marvi Delfin, live from Australia. We serve the people, we give glory to God.